Yo, these ants are gonna finish my whole experience today, boy. Yo, guys, there are a lot of ants here, man. There are plenty ants here, and it's beginning to jam me.
Wait a minute.
So I googled the crow meaning, and I saw a lot of things. Powerful animal spirit. Mainly might be negative symbology. It could be an omen, an ill omen. You know, really positive, really like, oh, you're receiving spiritual gifts, spiritual blessing. Then my brain did its thing again. Okay, this Google thing, where is the resource coming from? Where's the information coming from? Because when I Google something, it's going into an archive of documentation or research or information. So who's written up these things? And again, if it's coming mainly from a specific group of people, then what has been their experience with this bird or these birds? And then if it's mostly negative, why? Because like I said earlier on, nature doesn't produce bad creatures. It doesn't produce evil creatures. I've never seen an evil bird or an evil pigeon or an evil lizard or an evil black cat and a good black cat. If you're saying some human beings transform to these creatures, that's a different story entirely. But that's not stating that these creatures are made by nature inherently evil. Like as I'm looking at the seagulls right now, I can't point out to one seagull and say that seagull is an evil seagull. That seagull has an evil spirit. If you're saying, spirits can possess animals, that's probably a conversation to be had. But to just assume that all crows on this planet are all... This thing just crawled on my screen.
What?
These ants, my God, for real.
Too damn bad!
Nice.
That's a fun experience to have today. I guess it's a lesson to me then. Don't sit on grass to record. Or whenever I sit on grass, avoid the ants.
Willingly?
Yes.
Maybe I'll leave the video here.
No, God!
Because these ants are beginning to get on my nerves. Maybe that's their way of saying go home.
Go home, Roger.
What I'm saying here is the clear lack of knowledge. And true knowledge. Not what Google says or what a book says. Obviously, these books are important, but I also have to be mindful of who has written these books and what experience did they have with the crows in their time. Like, how deeply spiritual were they? How true were their words when they wrote it down? How often did they test these experiences they had with the birds? The same way I said earlier on, when a child is growing up and he or she has a particular connection with nature. When a child figures out how to communicate in its own unique way with nature, and then that becomes its own Bible, that child has learned to become one with nature because it understands it is from nature, and it is nature it'll go back to when its life cycle is done. So it creates its own ways of communicating with nature and understanding nature, and create its own religion, its own culture, its own tradition, its own Bible.
That boy is good.
So therefore, crows can't have a universal meaning for every human being on the planet. That means the same time that crow cawed and other people heard it, would they all have frowned the same way I frowned? Would they all have felt uncomfortable? They probably all saw, or mostly saw, the same movies I saw growing up as a child as well, that affected their perception of the crow. And it's experiences like these that really remind me that, hey, you got a lot to learn. And then I think, okay, how much time do I have to learn these things? I wish I knew these things earlier without having to start learning now, because it feels unfair and unbalanced. That there's so many things I don't know about that I should have been taught, that should be accessible by everyone. This information should be available to everyone. What is my relationship with the crow bird, the crow animal spirit? And why did I react that way? There's a lot to unpack, man. There's so much to learn, there's so much to remember, there's so much to to realize, there's so much to experience.
That's right.
I don't want to have to hold on to someone else's fear or another group of people's fear because of what they experience in that time period with the crows. So sometimes I actually avoid Googling certain things, and I just let it be. I don't allow myself to get irritated anymore when I hear the crow, because it is what it is. Some people don't feel these creatures carry significance or spiritual meaning, and to each their own. But yet you have the Native Americans, for example, their relationship with the eagle, the hawk, the falcon, the ox, the bison, the horses, the bear. I mean, they even have or had a cartoon called Brave Star, and the Native American character there had different abilities that he pulled from when it came to different animal spirits. So that's saying something. You could argue it's just a cartoon and it's a playful thing. Yeah, cool. That's something you are entitled to, of course. But I'm talking about a truth, not my opinion. Just like I said earlier on, you can sit down and look at two seagulls and determine which one is evil and which one is good. They just are. But yet, from time to time, these creatures will present themselves in a particular way to a people and communicate with them and say, hey, these are things you don't know, let me teach you. So we learn from nature, we archive the information, and then we proceed. But somewhere down the line, some people had negative experiences with the crow bird, and all that has now become sometimes the primary information you come across when you type in, a crowbird's evil, or the crowbirds carry bad spirits, and so on and so forth. And then, if so, who and what designated the crowbird to become the creature to easily possess? Why is the crowbird because it's a black bird? So therefore, the person who does magic, the best way to possess, or the best way to scare someone, is to possess that black bird and just start flying around and cawing and make people panic. And even when a crowbird caws around someone who's never heard that crowbirds carry bad luck, or they are an ill omen, how would that crowbird affect the person? Because he or she would be neutral. I just heard a bird fly above me and caw. That's neither here nor there. You could also argue that that's probably what happened today with the crowbird. It's a neutral thing. It wasn't letting me know there's danger or there's happiness coming. It's just neutral, which is true. But because I've been alive on this planet long enough to understand that signs and symbols are everywhere, just like these ants crawling over me. So therefore, the crowbird holds a significant meaning.
You ain't lying.
But I would like to find that meaning out without the fear, without the confusion of Google, without the confusion of other people's opinions who have had bad experience. What I'm getting at is I would like to know what these things are, immediately. I don't think it's cool that a lot of us have inherited other people's fears and confusion, and we've allowed those things to confuse and take over our way of seeing certain things, our way of experiencing certain things, our way of communicating with the particular animal spirit. There's a plethora of books out there of animal spirits, animal totems, plant spirit and plant totems, nature spirit, nature totems, so many things. Even in my culture, my tradition, certain animals are revered and respected and honored and looked at a particular way. You have India, for example, with the cows, or if it's certain animals that represent certain deities, for example, the elephant with Shiva.
What?
Or is it Ganesh? Is the elephant Ganesh?
Are you serious?
I don't want to get it wrong and insult people. I think the elephant is Ganesh and Shiva's Shiva, I think it's Ganesh or Ganesha. So all other peoples have their own meanings. I wonder what the true information is in regards to crow for an African. Meaning, even when an African is in America or Mexico and he or she hears a crow bird, that meaning is still significant to the African that's in Mexico. And then when the Mexican hears a crow bird, that meaning is significant to the Mexican. And then the African and the Mexican can share, their cultural
It was at this moment that he knew.
This ant, this ant, this ant, this ant.
Damn, son.
Is it one ant?
Daddy, chill.
Stubborn as hell, aren't they?
Yeah.
Real stubborn little creatures.
You ain't lying.
So when the Mexican hears a crow bird, he or she knows what message the crow bird is bringing. And when the African in the same vicinity as the Mexican hears a crow bird, he or she knows what message the crow bird is bringing. So it's one bird heard by two different people, carrying two different messages, unique to each individual. And each individual can sit down and share the differences or similarities in their relationship with said crow bird. Earlier on, I recorded a number of swans in the pond here, and those beautiful creatures also carry a spiritual message frequency. So the people who are predominant on this land will have a different interpretation or different information in regards to the swans. But I'm also curious as to what the relationship and communication is between swan and an African such as myself. And whilst I was recording and taking pictures of the swans, there were also other people there with me as well. They were feeding the swans. So we were each sharing in the energy of each other. Not necessarily myself and the strangers, but in terms of we as human beings and the swans. So from whatever location we each came from, we all came together to meet at this particular spot and experience the swan at that particular, or the swans at that particular time. And those things carry significant meaning. So we could also say that the message the swan would have for each of us would obviously be unique. There could be a general message: be at peace, enjoy yourself, be happy. And obviously another symbology of water being a very powerful conduit, of course.
That boy is good.
We're in the wombs of our mothers. So two symbologies there: the swan and the water. And what water means for me and my people, or where I come from, that's a specific, unique frequency and message, a reoccurring message. What the swan would have meant for the people who are feeding them would be different and unique to them, to me. Like I said, there'd be a general message, and then there's a unique message for each individual. This is the same way I said earlier on, the crow bird that calls, the African hears it, and also the Mexican hears it. Now there'll be a specific, unique message for each of us, me and the Mexican hearing the crow bird, and then there'll be a general message for the both of us, where we can both say, oh, that's a similar message. We can both agree, not agree upon, we can both see, and then there's a unique message that's meant for myself internally and meant for him or her internally. All right then, let me hit pause right now because it's definitely getting dark. And this is nice. This is cool to just come out here, sit on grass and touch some grass. Minus the ants.
You ain't lying.
But hey, that's nature. Getting back into the swing of things. Learn to appreciate them a lot more. Just not to crawl on me. I'd like to talk to them and say, I'm recording. Don't crawl on me all over the place yet. When I'm done recording, you can crawl on my feet all you want, but until then, let me just finish recording before you crawl over my lens or into my nostrils.
Damn, son.
Anyway, peeps, I have been your one and only multi-potentialite, neurodivergent host, the Kosmic Jedi, signing out. Thank you for watching.